Yeah, white bias, white privilege, very hot button words. But I think if somebody like me is going to process words like that from a posture of listening rather than from a posture of being the authority, and from a posture of humility rather than a posture of pride. Um, my friend David Bailey, who's a gifted African American leader in the space of racial reconciliation and justice, calls it implicit racial bias, which means we're not aware of it. Like, it's there, but we're not aware of it unless somebody brings it out of us and makes us aware of it. But things like hamburgers are normal food, and teriyaki and ethnic food. Like that is a statement reflecting white American implicit bias, that there's normal food and then there's ethnic. Well, no, it's all ethnic, because we have an ethnicity too, as Euro derivative people, right? Things like the police shootings conversation, where African American men are shot by Caucasian police officers, and if my only impulse, and I'm not saying this is an illegitimate impulse, but if my only impulse is to immediately say, well, you got to fight crime, you got to be tough on crime, you got to protect yourself as an officer, those are all legitimate considerations. But if that's the only thing we run to, and we don't have the humility to consider the narrative of what it's like to be immediately suspected as being dangerous because of the color of your skin, to have to know and to have to teach your kids that if you get pulled over, put both of your hands on the wheel so that the officer doesn't suspect you're going for a gun or some kind of weapon and perceive you as a threat because of the color. Like, I never was taught I had to do those things. And to disrespect or dismiss that reality, or to when a black kid or a Latino kid talks about, hey, it's really hard to go to a high school that's 97% white, and to just say, well, that's just the way the world is, just, hey, you should be thankful for the good education that you're getting, or, in the suburbs or wherever you are. Like, that's dismissive, and that's not honoring to the gospel to dismiss somebody else's narrative because it doesn't play into yours. Just to think about how much harder you have to work as an Asian to get invited into executive space, vocationally. And even if you do work twice as hard, you're not networked with all the people that the white people are networked with for generations. And so your chances are slim relative to somebody with maybe even sometimes half your skill set. Because you speak with an accent, so I think just if you're part of majority culture, you have to be hyper tuned into those things, and part of staying hyper tuned is just to ask questions constantly of especially minority people who are in the space that may be more white dominant, to constantly be asking the question, especially if you're a leader, what is it like to live in this space as you? Help me understand what might be hard. I'm inviting you to say what might be hard to say and maybe even harder to hear. What kind of changes would need to happen in order to bring your level of comfort and at homeness in this place to my level of comfort as you perceive it. Asking those kinds of questions, while it can lead to discomfort, I think are incredibly important.